Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the next video of the series on open files in chess. So open files, as we can see here, is the C file. So just to remind you, open files are when there are no pawns on the specific file we are talking about, in this case the C file. And yeah, especially then heavy pieces can or should try and infiltrate this file and control the file, especially to control the 7th or the 8th rank, where most pieces are of the opponents and therefore where you can cause the most amount of damage. So in this position we have a game between Ponomarev and Vaganyan, and it was white to move, and you can try and think for yourself here how Ponomarev managed to seize the advantage. I think it's a pretty good exercise. There's only one way for white to manage to control the C file in an advantageous way, and Ponomarev did so by playing Queen A1, which is a very strong move. Simply, first of all, hitting the knight on D4, and second of all, once the knight moves, we can try and play Rook C1 on the next move. If you thought about Queen D2, it is also logical, but after short castle, now Rook C1 is not possible, because Queen takes C1, Queen C1, Knight E2, Black would win the game. So that's also why Queen A1 is important, to kick out this knight from D4, and Knight C2 doesn't work because Rook C1 would win the game for white if Black takes on A1, Rook C8, wins the Rook on H8, and otherwise white could simply pick up this knight on C2, for example, with short castle, Queen B2, and white will win the piece due to this pin on the C file. So that's why Black played Knight F5, and now Rook C1 was played, Queen D7, Queen C3. Again, I think a very good example for who comes first has the fun when it comes to open files, and here white is the one who is able to control the C file first. Black castled, and now again a small exercise. White played a very strong move here. If you want to pause the video, now is the time to do so. White played Queen C6, which might look a bit strange because pieces on the C file look so active, and why would you exchange pieces here? But there is simply no other way for white to make progress here. You have to, the queen here on D7 protects these squares, and Queen C6 is the only way to make progress here. The queens could get exchanged, but once Black takes here, then these pawns on B6 and A6 would become very weak, and if the rook would defend them passively, now we could also go to the 7th rank and hit this very weak pawn on F7 with an overwhelming advantage for white. Black would probably have to stay passive like this, but yeah, I guess also Rook A7 already could win this pawn on A6, but white could also simply bring the king to the center and only then slowly pick up these pawns on the queen side. So that's why Black played Queen D8 here. If Queen A7 would come with the idea possibly of B5 check at some point, then Queen C7 again would be a very strong idea. So white is striving to exchange queens here, because then the pawns on B6 and A6 can be attacked pretty easily. For example, after the takes, Knight D4, King F2, simply bringing the king to E3, again hitting the knight on D4. Black would be in pretty big trouble again. Just look on this Rook on C7, controlling the C file and hitting this pawn on F7. It's just a disaster for Black. Black played Queen D8, and now Queen B7. So C file is still controlled, and now the Rook comes to the 7th rank, and if we have two heavy pieces on the 7th rank, it's even worse for the defending side in most cases. So the pawn on F7 is a huge target. Knight D4 was in the game. Now Black played King F2. He was afraid of some Knight E2 checks. For example, now Rook C7 could run into check here, and Knight takes F4 with considerable counterplay for Black. So King F2 was played, Queen B8, and now he played Rook C7. He could also take on B8 here first and go Knight F3, for example. This endgame is another great example, yeah. The one who controls the C file first is the one to enjoy his life, basically, and now the Rook can simply infiltrate here, and white will slowly make progress. For example, he could run in with the king here, or play G4 followed by F5, making some weaknesses. This position would already be winning for white. But the same would happen after Knight F5, G4. It's also not much better for white. Again, the Rook can infiltrate here, maybe in connection with Knight G5, hitting the pawn on F7 again. Again, white is already winning here. But he played Rook C7, and after takes, B5, Rook A7, he won the pawn. Black had some chances here to still hold the game later on, but I think this was, I think I already showed the key elements of this game, and if white were to take here on B8 first and not give up control along the C file, then it would have been much easier for him, because later on in the game Black managed to come with his Rook to C8, and it was not so easy for white. White still managed to win the game, but I think this win with takes and Knight F3 would be much more clinical for white and much easier. But yeah, just keep in mind, if there's only one open file, then try and do everything in your power you can to control this file. The more heavy pieces, the better, of course, and in general the whole aim of controlling the open file is to infiltrate along the 7th rank or along the 8th rank, where you can attack the most of your opponent's pieces. So I hope you enjoyed this last example of how to play for open files in chess. If you did so, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, it will help me out a lot. And yeah, you can also visit my website, felixbobega.com, check out my Instagram, Twitter, all sorts of things. And until then, see you next time. time, and thank you for watching.